Now we're going to look into chapter 10, Esprit de Corps. Esprit de Corps, to put it very simply, is the feeling of pride and mutual loyalty shared by the members of a group, and especially in a company, the senior management team, that they are all oriented, that they are all towards strategy, and that there's teamwork and there is a good organizational climate, and that they are all motivated to focus on achieving the strategic plan that they have set up. And of course you find that, I usually like to draw the example of the New Zealand All Blacks and of the strong esprit de corps that they show before a game in rugby.
Sometimes it's called a war dance, but the correct word is really a haka. And you find that you can get this on YouTube. Just type, H-A-K-A, and where you put New Zealand haka, then you'll see it. You can see it.
Now the question that I like to focus for this chapter really is on how do you orientate senior managers towards strategy, that they actually plan well and they actually work towards achieving the plan and in terms of implementing strategy given the changes in the marketplaces. The most important way to orientate senior managers towards strategy is through performance appraisal. Yes, that's the best. And the other approaches, for example, on getting managers to give attention to strategy, training on strategy, as well as the use of external consultants. But most effectively, really, we found is that of performance appraisal.
I also like to use the analogy of a boat. And if the senior management team feel that they are all in one same boat, then the odds are they will work together, they will be oriented, and they will then be trying to get the boat towards the direction, the strategy that has been agreed upon. And you find that there would be, especially if they are praised as a group, that they have to perform and they have to achieve the goals that they set out.
And when senior managers, and we find that the evidence of what we are saying, right, that when senior managers are praised for their strategy, right, the entire steps in the strategic planning process are being worked on, are being focused on. Now, what are the steps in strategic planning? And of course, they are not necessarily sequential, but they may be identifiable in a planning process. One is the setting of financial objectives, something which I will touch on in some detail later on. This is a very important component of strategic planning. Then you have the coordination aspect of it, how to coordinate with departments in order to achieve a plan. And locating our resources, the projection selection criteria, how you go about selecting projects, what criteria should you be using. Then of course there's a search for opportunities. Given a certain plan, you have to search for what are the viable opportunities, and the evaluation of alternatives. What are the alternatives that may be considered, and how is the alternative, which is the best. Then of course there is the forecasting of results. Don't forget, there's always an annual report that you have to file at the end of the year. Therefore, you want to be sure that your quarterly reports will measure up at the end of the year to at least achieving the objectives. And when you cannot, that your gap analysis, that these gaps will be identified and pointed out early on, so that appropriate actions may be taken. Then of course, what are strategies be undertaken to close those gaps.
Another way of looking at it is to say that the senior managers are more intense in their effort.
And of course, if those things have been worked through, right, the parallel in the military really is that, the officers think through a campaign and how they're going to engage the enemy, and thinking through, for example, you see in the slide, that they actually use model soldiers or toy soldiers to discuss the campaign and what will happen in different phases of the campaign. Thinking through is extremely important aspect of strategy process.
Such models as you see may be required to help generals to formulate plans.
Another interesting finding we had was that the kinds of training in strategy that senior managers require. They require to be taught, at least to be coached on how to set financial objectives in a given situation. And then the gap analysis, forecasting, and locating resources. I'm going to focus on setting of financial objectives. Here I bring in a parable, which you may know, right? The fox and the grape. You know, the grapes and then the fox trying to reach to take the grapes. Now one thing very interesting, if you set the grapes up too high, the fox on seeing that will say, look, I can't jump so high. The fox will just walk away. So you find that, right? In other words, if a manager set up too high an objective, the sales team or the people involved will say, well, this is a ridiculous target. Nobody will really put an effort to achieving it, and they'll start looking for jobs elsewhere. But then if you set a target that's too low, it's no challenge at all. That even a company will not likely be approved. Then the ideal approach is really to set a target that is above what is that can be achieved with reasonable effort, above reasonable effort. So there's a gap, so that the team had to put in that extra effort in order to achieve the goal. That would be a good target to set. And of course, you'll find that it's also very important that companies make it explicitly clear how performance appraisal is linked to the strategic planning, a plan be undertaken, so the company can rely on this plan, right? And managers know that they are being assessed on the modern usage of the term is KPI, right? That there is the process, the linkage must be clearly set out.
The idea, of course, is to motivate the manager so that he adopt the right approach, a planning approach that's correct for or appropriate for the industry. And you'll find that industry varies, so the approaches will differ depending on the nature of the industry.
And one thing which was very heartening from the research point of view is the fact that you find that if you orientate senior management team towards strategic planning, that the benefits, that a wide range, the consistent set of benefits organized are achieved if managers are being oriented towards strategy.
It is worth repeating that once the managers are oriented towards strategy, then you find that the benefits are expected from strategic planning, like teamwork, like plan as a guide, timely strategy, be more proactive, and sense of direction and external awareness. All these benefits will come to the company when the managers are all oriented towards strategy.
And of course, you find that for the home assignment, I made it very simple, and it is simply to explain two variables. Simply the interconnection between strategy consulting and ad hoc planning. Why are they interrelated?
Right here you find strategy consulting is positively correlated with ad hoc planning. But if you remember, ad hoc planning is correlated negatively in earlier lectures.
Right, thank you so much.